welcome back. We're talking to Dr. Mitchell and Ms. Wynn about the Declaration of Independence 1996. And of course, we say 1996, Dr. Mitchell and Ms. Wynn, just to give our audience some idea that already we've talked about the historical aspect of the Declaration of Independence. But more than that, Ms. Wynn, let's have you to pick up where we left off the last time by giving us some information relative to the impact of the Declaration of Independence and what it really meant to bring it into focus for today.
You know, when Thomas Jefferson penned that document, there was a great debate, and they grappled over how to address this issue of slavery. As a matter of fact, initially he really tried to pin the institution of slavery on King George. And the southern colonies really didn't want to have anything mentioned about the institution of slavery in there. So they prevailed, and of course it was left out. But what it really did was that it did not give the abolitionists who would come along, nor those who were for slavery, an instrument with which they could fall back upon and address. So it's really interesting when you go back and you read that history and you read the dialogue about the drafting of that document. The dynamics are very interesting in there.
Very good. Dr. Mitchell, what could you say about that document today? I mean, has that document any real meaning for Americans or the international community, or what? I mean, what?
Oh, I think around the world, as new governments are beginning to come to shape in the Middle East, in Eurasia, in Africa, they still look to the document, to the Declaration of Independence as a great philosophical document. I want to say about Americans, African Americans at the time, please understand they were just as caught up in the rhetoric of the libertarian movement as their white counterparts. They were supportive of it. Let me say about the slaves. Slaves did not carry on any insurrections. They were Americans. They supported the document. You know, and I like to always challenge people with regard to African Americans. What marvelous citizens we've been of a country that's not always been marvelous with all of us. You've never seen a group of African Americans protesting on the 4th of July. You've never seen African Americans in large number leaving the country to avoid war, participating in war. We've been excellent citizens. You don't see African Americans as a group as tax protesters, even though many years we could argue that we didn't receive the same level of services as other American groups. We are, my grandfather once pointed out that you should be proud to pay income tax. It meant you had an income last year.
And so as we approach the 4th of July of 1996, it might be safe to say that there is a real meaning for African Americans, especially not only for African Americans, but for all Americans, in looking at this great document that we call the Declaration of Independence.
We have remained for over 200 years the shining light for the world. Every country that talks about emerging freedom wants to be like the United States of America.
What would you say, Ms. Wynn, to some of our young people who might be somewhat cynical toward the government, toward society, toward the kind of things that many of us hold dear? What would you say to those people this morning?
I would say to them that when you go back, and this is where I think history is very important, when you go back and you look at the story, be it the European story, the African American story, the male story, the female story, they all converge. And African Americans have fought in every war that this country has ever been involved in. Our foreparents have lost their blood and their life for this country. It is a country certainly that has problems, but at the same time, I don't know of any other country where you have the freedom to protest. And so that is, you know, something to look at within itself. I think that the Declaration of Independence should mean as much to them simply because of what their foreparents have gone through as it should to anyone else in this country.
And so, Dr. Mitchell, you don't think it's inappropriate for us to entitle this the Declaration of Independence 1996, no, meaning that it has some real meaning for us in 1996? It has
continued meaning. There might be problems in America, but I think the world realizes there's no better place in the world to live than the United States of America.
Okay, we've got about a minute and a half that will allow both of you to have a short comment in reference to what we've been talking about. Some final comments from you, Ms. Wynn.
I would just like to say that, you know, there is a trend that is going on that some African Americans are saying, well, I'm not going to celebrate the 4th of July, I will celebrate Juneteenth. Well, I don't think you can celebrate both, for they certainly have meaning, both have meaning to us as a community. So I think with that in mind, you do not have to do one without the other. We should do both.
Very good. Dr. Mitchell.
This remains an inclusive country. You can be an Anglo-American, you can be a Franco-American, you can be a Hispanic-American, you can be an African-American. We're all Americans, along with the indigenous Amero-Americans. We're a nation of immigrants. But we're a richer nation because of that. We gain our strength from our unity, and we should never allow ourselves to be segmented.
And so while we might say that while the Founding Fathers, when they drafted the Declaration of Independence, might not have had the African-American in mind, nor several of the other groups in American society in mind, but nevertheless, I think in 1996 we can say that the Declaration of Independence has as much meaning to African Americans and other Americans as it had to the Founding Fathers during that period. And let me thank both of you, Dr. Mitchell and Ms. Wynn, for coming by and giving us that excellent information about the Declaration of Independence. And I think that what the two of you have said this morning will give those who might be somewhat skeptical or who might be somewhat critical in terms of the position of African Americans in society today. It'll give them a new outlook in terms of where we've been. And let me encourage you to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.